So welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to make a low polygon waterfall. I made that for a platforming game before that I posted during the summer, and this time I thought I'm going to do a step-by-step walkthrough of how I made such a waterfall. I can't really remember exactly how I did that one, so I'll have to make it up a little bit as I go, but hopefully it should work out alright. So let's get started. Let's make a low poly waterfall. Alright, so for this I'm going to start up Blender because I want to use a sphere object. So I'll start by deleting the objects, Shift A to create a new mesh, and let's create an icosphere. And for this we need only a few segments. Let's make it this low poly, because we're going to make it out of a particle system that shoots out meshes. We don't need to UV map it or anything like that. So let's export it. File, export, FBX. So I'm using Blender 2.81 here, so the export interface looks slightly different. There are three important things to do. One of them is usually to select the selected objects. It doesn't really matter this time because we've only got one object in the scene, but we do want to apply scaling and set it to FBX unit scale. That makes 1 unit in Blender will be the same as 1 unit in Unity. And also we want to do this experimental apply transform that will fix the orientation so it's not rotated by 90 degrees around the x-axis. So if you apply these settings, everything should be good in Unity. Let's save this to my let's see, my project folder. Let's make it straight into actually I've got a huge a Unity project already running here, so let's create a new folder here and let's call it meshes. And then I'm actually going to save it straight into this folder. We want to save it as icosphere. And switch back to Unity. And now we've got the one, we can actually switch off so it doesn't import the material as well. So for the icosphere, we go to materials and say we don't want to import that one because we want to have our own material. All right, so we've got the sphere. Actually, what we should also make is something brief for this waterfall to fall up on. So let's create just some simple geometry for the landscape. So let's delete the icosphere first. Actually, we don't need that one anymore. Then we create a new mesh. Let's create a grid, 40 by 50 by 50 subdivisions. Go tab into edit mode, and then we scale it up to maybe 10 times the size. And we're still in edit mode. So let's raise this up a little bit. For this, I'm going to add proportional editing here. So if I select a vertex here now, B for box select, take those vertices, G to move it, and then Z to force it to move around the Z axis, and then use the scroll wheel to change the proportional editing. And let's make it, I'll type in 10 to make it 10 units high. And then let's select, press 7 on the numpad, and then we select these vertices here in the center. We can lower the proportional editing, so I press G again to move, Z to scale it, Z to lock it on the Z axis, and then I scroll this down there first, and then let's grab these as well. Actually, let's re-grab this and grab a few vertices down the line there as well. Like that. So now we've got somewhere for the waterfall to fall down. It'll run through here like a bit of a river and then fall down here. Maybe we should actually have it flat or indented a bit where it lands as well. So I actually, instead of box select, I'm going to hold the control key and use the right mouse button, and then select a few vertices like this. And then let's lower this down. G to move, Z, and then let's use the mouse wheel and let's indent for the lake here. There we go. And then what we can do is to add some randomness here as well. Let's select a few vertices here. Oh yeah, hold the shift key to select a few random vertices here. We can select a few down here as well. And then G and the Z again. Change the proportional editing a bit. And then now let's enable or switch to random. G, Z. There we go, that'll do. Okay, let's save this as, we'll call it ground. We can actually move a few of these in as well. Let's hold the shift key to select a few of these. Let's move them in. There we go. That'll do for our section of the world. And yeah, we called it ground already. So let's export this. FBX, we have selected objects, FBX unit scale, and we have the experimental transform applied. So let's do that one, and then let's call this ground. And switch back into Blender, no, to Unity. And we have the ground here now, so let's drag the ground into, first of all, we can disable this import of the material. Let's drag the ground in to our scene. And we can create a new folder here called materials to keep it a bit tidy, but with a lowercase a. And then here, let's create a new material that we call ground. Let's make that brown. We use the standard shader for this. We make it brown and then reduce the smoothness and then apply it to the ground here. So now we have this ground section here. And then let's rotate the light a little bit so we have different shadow. And now we can also move the camera. If we want the camera to be looking at it like this, let's select the camera, go to game object, and then align with view. And now we've aligned the camera to the same as we had in the viewport here. All right, time has come now to start making a bit of a waterfall. So we can create here, let's create a new empty game object, right click here, and then let's call it waterfall. And W to get this movement up and then move it into place here. So let's spawn the water from here. So in the game that I made, you saw a waterfall in the distance like this only. You didn't really see it. It was more of a background art. So if you needed to run for longer, you'd probably have to tweak some settings, but let's just make it a bit of a cross section of a waterfall now to see what it looks like. And here, let's add a particle system now. And that'll spray particles in a cone shape out. First of all, we can change down here at the renderer, let's switch it from billboard to mesh. And then press here to select the icosphere that we created before. And then what we want to do here is we want to switch to a material. So let's right click here and create a new material. And let's call that one water. And change it to a blue color. And then in the renderer here as well, we can switch the material to our water texture like that. And then it's spraying it out from the shape of a cone now. So we can change this one to box. And then we can rescale this box a little bit. So let's make it 5. And then we can change the size of these particles as well. Let's make them a little bit smaller, 0.5. And then we need to create a lot more of them. So let's change the emission here to 50 per second. And they're spraying straight out now, like they didn't have any care in the world. No gravity is affecting them. And then we can start, either we could apply gravity modifier here and start having them falling down. And sometimes that works. It depends on how far you want it to spray out here and if you want them to keep accelerating down. If you don't want to use the gravity modifier, there's also a method that we can use to control, and that's, let's see now if I remember it even, velocity over lifetime. And here we can change the Y velocity, and that changes them instantly, but I think we can switch this to a curve. Oh yeah, it's probably hiding here. Sometimes it does. I think it is hiding here. Oh yeah, there it is. This is so annoying. Sometimes I really get lost when it comes to that one. Anyway, so here's a curve. We can affect the Y now over lifetime, and this is beneficial because we can start controlling it at a later point. Change the start speed to 0. Well, that's what it was. So start speed is 0 when it comes to the normal particle, but on the Z axis here, let's light that one up. We move it forward but only to here. Here we want to stop it. So only half the lifetime you should move forward in the Z direction, and then you should stop moving forward. And but the y-axis as well, we need to modify this now. Speed multiplier 2, maybe 3 or 4. And here we can adjust this a little bit so it doesn't stop altogether. Maybe like this would be a good... You can play around with the settings here to get the fall off that you want. We probably want it slightly sharper, like this. That should do it. Let's move it back a little bit again. There. Okay. So this is a good start probably. They look a little bit static still, so let's start by giving them a rotation. Start rotation could be, let's change it to a 3D start rotation, and then random between 2 constants, and then let's randomize them between 0 and 360 degrees, so their initial rotation will be randomized. And then we also want them to rotate over time. They look too static now, so we can go rotation over lifetime, and then let's randomize that as well. Random between 2 constants, maybe minus 180 and 180. And so they rotate a little bit there. We still need them to be either bigger or more of them. We already got 250 particles here, so you'll have to keep track of how much performance this is eating up. But I think the particle systems are fairly optimized, and in here as well you can do, or in the water here, you can do enable GPU instancing, which will improve your performance. That might have some limitations later on if you want to do individual modifications to the particles. So if that seems to apply to all the particles, then it's probably because you enabled the GPU instantiation. But let's increase the count to double at least. So let's go to the emission here, and then up it to 100. Now we're starting to get a bit of a fuller waterfall here. And maybe we still want to accelerate them a little bit more over time here. So let's look at the Y curve that we had, and maybe we can introduce another key here. Double click on that one. Let's keep it like that. All right. That's it. What else can we do? Sometimes we want to randomize the color a little bit so they don't look so static. First of all, we can make it a bit deeper blue maybe. And then we want to make it a little bit white, so that you have as if it's foaming up a little bit maybe with the particles. So in that case we can go into let's see, now we have color over lifetime here, and here we can actually modify the color over its lifetime. So let's have a look what we can change. And then here I think actually we should switch back. Let's make this water gray again, because we want to control the water in there, so, or like so. And let's lower the smoothness. And then go back into the waterfall here. And then here for color over lifetime, now we can actually set the blue color in here instead. That gives us a bit more control. And at the moment it's not changing the color I see, and I think I know why that is. That's because we have a bright white setting here. So if we lower this one, it should come into color. No, okay. Absolutely no color change. Maybe it's because it's not affecting the color of the standard shader. So let's change this one from maybe here, particles, standard surface. Here we go. Opaque. So now we have a particle. So this is still the standard shader. Now we get the. Now we can change this one to blue. Oh, interesting. I wonder if this has to do with. Is this a bug? A Unity bug? In the following particle systems rendering using this material with incorrect vertices. Let's apply this then. Have you seen that before? Let's brighten up again to white, on the water. Let's go back into the waterfall, brighten this up. So that was a bit of a long journey. Well, you live and learn. So just to recap then what we set is, the important thing was to change the water from the standard shader to the particle shader. So standard surface particle shader, keep that one white, and then in the waterfall, keep this one quite white as well. And then control the color in the color over lifetime. So that's the key things here. Because now we can change, so as it comes over the edge here, let's foam it up a little bit towards white here. And then we can have it blue here again. And then we can fade it back into this blue key here as well. So over time it goes back. Let's make it a bit sharper. And then here, you don't want probably all of them to be white at the same time. We want some randomness here still. So let's move this one even more. Make this longer here. And here we can first of all set a random between two gradients. So let's see if we can copy this gradient. New. Let's copy that one there. And then let's modify this one here. So now we've shifted it a little bit. And we can make this sharper again, actually, the gradient. So now we have it that it foams up, and then we can actually make it foam as it lands again here as well. Let's make it into white again. And let's do the same for this one. White. There we go. And then we could probably randomize the speed a little bit about these particles as well. So in order to do that, since we're controlling it with the velocity over lifetime, maybe we can do a slightly different here. Random the start speed here. So constant random between two. Whoa. Okay, we don't want it to be that fast. That's a bit interesting as well, because it's random between two constants and both of them are 0. So it shouldn't really affect this at all. Oh no, 5, sorry. It's my vision again. 0 to 0. There we go. And then let's just do it 0.01. That'll throw them into a little bit more randomness. And what else should we do? We can randomize the size a little bit. So start size random between two constants. Let's do them between 0.5 and 0.7 to fill it out a little bit more, or 0.7. Yeah. And then we can actually make this emitter slightly smaller, because we're having them come out over there. So let's change this shape to, so we have this emission here, shape is here. So let's make it 4 again. There we go. All right, so there is a waterfall now. And if you have that in the distance of a platformer, that's where I used it, then let's make it so you see the camera here instead. And that could be quite a nice effect. Let's randomize the lifetime slightly as well, between two constants, between 5 and 5.1, 5.5 maybe. So that also throws a little bit more randomness to this waterfall, and we can move the whole waterfall back again a little bit. There we go. And then you probably want to have some water down here where it lands as well. And how you want to do that, I'm not sure. Maybe you have a water shader or something like that. And we could, for just the sake of it now, let's create just a cube with the same watercolor here. Actually, we need to create a new watercolor here because we controlled the color before. So let's make this one called just lake. Change this one to a blue. Let's move this cube. And then when I press R to resize the scale of it, like make it wider, just in bigger in general. W to move it into place there. Lake, there we go. And then what you can do as well is you can create, so this will look a little bit static probably when it lands here. So the water will come across and it'll hit down here, but you probably want to have it foam up a little bit. So maybe we can create another particle system down here. What we should do actually, let's copy this waterfall one, Control D, and then let's move it into place here instead. Control, let's change. I'll just do something quick now. You can play around with this. It'll follow the same type of principle. So instead of velocity over lifetime, let's take that one away. We'll reduce the emission rate a lot to maybe 20 only. And then we can reduce the lifetime to between 3 and 5. And then W to move this one down. Let's shoot these up a little bit instead. So we can set the start speed between 1 or 0 and 1. And then we can change, we could just rotate this whole particle system. So if I press E, could rotate it so it shoots them up a little bit more. Let's change the speed from, or sorry, the speed I was meant to change before. Here, from 1 to 5. From 0.5 to 1. Let's rotate it again. And this one we could apply just gravity to, for example. So let's do a bit of gravity, 0.1, and then let's change the speed a little bit again. So you'll probably find that you'll just tweak these values to something that fits what your need is. Let's switch off the gravity so we see which way they're actually going. Okay, I think I've messed up the rotation a little bit, so let's reset that and rotate it manually. There we go. And then apply the gravity again, 0.2, 0.1, 0.05. Change the speed again, between 2 and 3. And then up with the gravity modifier again. And then let's switch these to all white. And then into blue actually as it ends its lifetime there. Take this one away. W, move it in a little bit. Let's shoot them up a little bit higher, even still start speed between 2 and 4. Rotate it a little bit again. And then we can shorten their lifetime down to between 2 and 3 only. Nope. Okay, and then decrease the start speed again. 1 to 2. And move it. That'll do. Okay, we can shorten their lifetime even more, between 1 and 2. All right, that should do. And then to see both of these in action, you can press Control and select both of these. So there we go. And finally, what you probably want to do, you can play around with this a lot more, and I'd recommend changing the water shader to a proper shader. That is, you can find in the standard assets. I think there are some examples of water that will create some ripples around this edge there. Oh yeah, one final thing, and that's for the waterfall here. You want to set it to pre-warm, so you don't have to wait for the initial water parts to come, and same one for the second one. Let's call this water foam. Then we can change the camera again. I'd recommend if you're using this for a background in a level, then I think this type of quality should be sufficient. And let's rotate the camera a little bit as well. And play full screen. And this one should have been pre-warm. So pre-warm, that's interesting that the pre-warm didn't work. It's set to pre-warm, so the water should already be over the edge. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, so here's the problem. I'm not sure if this is a bug or not. But if the simulation space is set to local, then the pre-warm isn't working properly, as you can see. So this was an interesting find. But if I switch the simulation space to world, then the pre-warm seems to work. So, well, again, not sure if that's a bug or not. Interesting. All right. Still, so let's switch this one back into the scene view mode here. We can look from a few different directions. So again, a lot of tweaking that you can do when it comes to colors, the size of the particles. We could actually change a little bit size over lifetime as well. Let's just do a last modify with that one, size over lifetime. Let's keep them quite static for a while. Let's see, let's shrink this one. Let's keep it static first, but right at the end we can make them bigger or smaller. You can change how you want the size of them to be anyway. All right, so that was a quick waterfall in Unity with the particle system using low poly icosphere. So I hope you enjoyed it, and make some waterfalls and make them prettier than mine. But you know how to do them now anyway, so good luck with that, and I'll see you in the next video.